2014 until they actually have to enforce it. But if a country wouldn't implement the TRIPS and wouldn't enforce patents, they probably couldn't be able to export any of their goods into other countries, which is more vital for these countries than the intellectual property, even though people are dying just because of that issue. So that's the main point. It's just a part of the whole system. It has become a part of the whole regulations, and it's not very easy, or it's mostly impossible to actually just stand up and say no.
I mean, one important point, I mean, you could say just we ignore TRIPS, we ignore WTO, we leave WTO. But one of the important parts of the WTO is the most favored nation principle, saying that tariff you grant to one member of the WTO, you have to grant to every other member of the WTO. So if you are in the WTO, you get a lot lower tariffs than if you are not in the WTO. So that's the reason why countries are very reluctant to leave the WTO and they're very keen to join and go to great length to join WTO. And the other question, I'm not sure whether I understand completely. Sure, if you have most of the companies originating from one country don't have only a legal personality in that country, you have many subsidiaries. So for instance, if Germany would say we go back to 1968, we have no patents on drugs, Bayer would still have patents on drugs in almost every other country in the world, but they would lose it in Germany. But there wouldn't be any difference whether the patent in Germany was held by Bayer Germany or by Bayer US or Bayer Iceland. Is that your answer to the question? There was...
Yeah. So another question. You give a lot of examples of why TRIPS is flawed. I mean, obviously we want to see AIDS drugs going to South Africa. But on the other hand, these drugs are very expensive to engineer. There is a lot of research money. So you need some protection for the pharmaceutical industry. Do you have any solution other than just saying that TRIPS is not the solution?
I wouldn't. I think this would fill another hour to explain why it's not necessary that there's a strong patent law on medical agents. The main reason is that a large portion of the research isn't done in companies, but it's done in national health institutes in the US or in German state-founded organizations. On the other hand, most pharma industry, most pharma corporations wouldn't really be dependent on exporting AIDS drugs to Zambia, but they still, it's just a part of their revenue. It's not vital for those countries, for these companies.
Yeah. I think though that you're missing my point. My point is not that the pharmaceutical companies need the money they get from Zambia. The point is that if Zambia can produce the drugs and sell them back to the United States, back to Europe, then that's a big loss.
Yeah, I think that there are two answers to that. One is what we say within the framework of TRIPS is just leave the patents out for developing countries, for the use in developing countries. Definitely, the drugs produced under those schemes in India for use in Zambia, they shouldn't be exported back to the US. But also, and as Julia mentioned, this goes a long story, there are very interesting proposals on how to finance research in drugs without patents. Similarly to the quantum flat rate, there's some system. I just go to Duke Law University, Center for the Intellectual Commons, and there's a talk by Jamie Love as a webcast. Oh, very cool. There you can see it.
Yeah, thanks for compiling all that information in a 1-hour lecture, but I'm missing the action part. So what can each of us do? So how can we fight this?
Yeah, good point. let's go to the next WTO ministerial. No, but much more importantly, I think, is awareness raising here inside Germany and also putting on pressure on our government. Because I don't think it's so well known that our government is actually one of the most evil guys with a black hat, when it comes to actual drug access to poor people. And that's something there need a lot more public relation work to be done. So the possibility is just join one of those groups working on this. There's, for instance,
Us?
Us, yes, yeah. I forgot to mention that. You could go to our webpage or also give me your email address. All of you, that would be nice. We have a mailing list, informative, non-low traffic mailing list on that. But also, if you just talk about drugs, there's a lot of work done by Ärzte ohne Grenzen, our AIDS-Kampagne. If you talk about seeds, there's work done by the Biopiracy campaign, and so on and so forth. One thing we just came out as an NGO statement on bilateral agreements on undermining access to health. But just get in contact. You can come after the lecture and we just exchange email addresses.
Thanks.
One more question?
Was there a question?
Yeah. Tactically, it's working out pretty well, this WTO thing, no? For the developing countries. I mean, they are getting more force.
They are, well, they've gone from 0 to a little, but it's still absolutely not enough.
But epsilon over 0.
Yeah, but epsilon very low over 0.
And I don't see it. I don't see that the WTO is working out positively for developing countries. I mean, there has been a lot of change in terms of that it's not only the industrialized countries running WTO anymore. But if you see what the most important things already were decided many years ago, but also if you look at the current negotiations, in the media here in Germany, for instance, there's a lot of focus on agriculture, where the European Union has to pay something. But the pressure on the developing countries to open up their markets for goods from the north is just as high, and they're getting something there as well. But I think we have to kind of clear the room.
Just one question.
Was there another question? Did I hear that? Yeah?
I think it's understood that the exemption clauses need fixing, but I mean structurally, from your knowledge, what within the structure of the WTO needs to be changed?
Well, the exemption clauses is just the least thing to do. I mean, it's just.
I think it's the main thing.
Yeah, the main.
You won't be able to abolish the whole system of intellectual property rights.
Well, there's a lot of things to do. The question is how far you can go. I think the TRIPS shouldn't be part of the WTO. It just shouldn't. But the question is what level do you want to achieve? I mean, it's not very possible that the TRIPS is taken out of the WTO next year, but it could be possible that the exemption periods are prolonged. So that's just step by step.
Legal exemption clauses like granting free pharmaceuticals to developing countries instead of changing the whole regime.
Well, it's just a step-by-step policy. We demand the abolition of TRIPS, but we also, if that's not possible, demand longer periods and better exemption clauses.
Okay. Any more questions? I think we have to clean the room.
We're going to go. Thanks.
Thank you.